I'll just do a quick introduction of you based on the bio that you sent me, and then we'll just get started.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Jay Xu has served as director and CEO of the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco since 2008, and he is the first Chinese American director at a major American museum. Dr. Xu is also a member of the governing board of the Terra Foundation for American Art, a member of the Association of Art Museum Directors, a member of the Advisory Council of the Department of Art and Archaeology at Princeton University, a member of the Visiting Committee of the Harvard Art Museums, a member of the advisory board at the Tong Center for Silk Road Studies at UC Berkeley, a member of the advisory board of the Shanghai Museum, and a visiting senior professor at the College of Liberal Arts at Shanghai University. He is also a member of the Committee of 100, a national nonpartisan organization composed of American citizens of Chinese descent who have achieved positions in leadership in the United States in a broad range of professions. 2005, Dr. Xu became the first Asian American museum director elected to the American Academy of Arts and Science. So, since you're the director of the current director of the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco, can you just describe a little bit of what you do, or on a broad level, what you do at the museum?
Yes. As a museum director, of course, the art is the core of what we offer to engage our public with. And my job is really to set the vision for the institution and develop a strategy to realize that vision and mobilize and engage all the stakeholders in executing our strategy. And so all these were done through a great degree of a consultation. So engage stakeholders, both on my board, our staff, and well members of our public and the volunteers is very important. And once I'll be able to sort of mobilize and engage all the people, and to identify and with our vision and agree with our strategy, because we have so many talents in the museum family. It is really my role to supporting everyone to execute our strategy and realize our vision and through our programs, through our content, and to engage people providing value. In this particular case, values for the Asian arts and culture to our public, and not only in our local community, but also for all the visitors from all over the world. And right now, actually, we're reaching out indeed even more extensively through the digital means, since we are running right now as a virtual museum instead of a physical museum since the lockdown imposed on by the COVID-19 crisis.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the main topics I wanted to talk with you about today is the impact that COVID has had on the way that you guys connect with your visitors, as well as the sort of the e-resources that you're currently offering. So yeah, I guess one of the ways that you guys are primarily using to allow your visitors to admire artworks from home as well as study them is your website. I saw that you guys offered a lot of programs and events as well as virtual exhibitions online. Can you talk a little bit more about those?
For us as an art museum, in terms of our service to the public, the number one challenge imposed by the COVID-19 crisis is that we had to close our physical museum. I mean, in my view, the works of art are the ultimate expression of a human ingenuity and exploration. So to be able to encounter real works of art is essential, yet we cannot do that. So that is the number one challenge. But at the same time, on the other hand, the digital means, the technology now we have, is really enable us to engage visitors digitally. And for the visitors who already familiar with the museum, those digital experiences will enable them, make a mental connection with their live experience. And for those visitors who have not visited the museum, the digital experience will really entice them and to sort of giving them a glimpse of what the museum is about. And in doing so, actually, digital means has enabled us to reach far broader audiences, and hopefully, they will intensify, their interest in visiting the physical museum. So that is why the virtual museum is so important. But that said, also, actually, digital is also a real space. It's not only a approximation of the real experience, because a lot of art are made digitally now. Their presentation does not require physical space sometimes. Using an analogy with the games, right? A lot of games now played on the handheld devices. It's all digital, and you don't even need a console to play it. So I think, we both treat the digital as a way to engage people, uh, uh, to help out during the time when the physical museum is closed, but also we treat the digital as a real space and as a universe that digital art could be experienced. So we have a very broad range of programs. For example, our museum is world famous for its classical Asian art. So we do masterpieces, sort of highlights. Some are longer, 20 minutes, a gallery tour that I will take you personally through a gallery to talk about wonderful art in that gallery. And you watch a film, so to speak, and you join me to go through gallery. Some are very short, 2 minutes, a highlight to call out the interesting aspects, the aspects of a particular piece. And then our curator, also do the virtual exhibitions, right? And our educators do the virtual classrooms to engage school teachers and the school kids to teach them art virtually. And then we also do the armchair tours. For example, because our art represents broad Asia, and during this time, we want to mentally, virtually take people to different destinations of Asia. And of course, all these armchair tours is anchored with the art. So I think it's a very diverse, broad range, and not only content, not only style, but also in time length. We know that time is always a very precious commodity, and people may not have a whole lot of time or even attention span, and some people may could afford more time. So I think this crisis, on the one hand, has imposed tremendous challenges, but also actually at the same time opened up new vistas for explorations. We had sort of been investing in digital side before COVID. We did not know, nobody would anticipate COVID would come. So in this regard, we're sort of ahead of a curve. So only ascertain our emphasis on the digital engagement. So I think that is very important, and we'll continue to engage our visitors in that arena.
Yeah, that was a very insightful response, both in terms of um, both in terms of what you guys are doing and the overall direction that you guys are headed towards, and also for the reasons behind why you guys are choosing to do that. Um, yeah, so you talked a little bit about the things that you are doing on Asian Art Museum's website. I saw that another way that the museum connects with your audiences and visitors is through social media. You guys have a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, WeChat. You guys are very active on multiple social media accounts. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about those as well, because I saw that especially for the WeChat, you personally are doing a lot of demonstrations and explanations for different artworks. So yeah, can you maybe talk a bit
Yeah,
about?
I think simply put, we must meet where our customers are, right? And we must always put ourselves into shoes of our visitors, whether
Exactly.
physical visitors or online visitors, and to see where their needs are. And nowadays, we know the people's tools or means by which they engage or communicate is all over the map. So we want to be we want to be vibrant on all channels, and with Instagram or and we actually also utilize email a lot. because I'm sort of more in the generation of emails, but I certainly appreciate the people, youngsters like you, so much ahead, so much more ahead of me in terms of engaging using social media as the primary tools of communication. So I think that is why we want to be in all channels, but we are very thoughtful and mindful because the channels have different things to offer and different view experience. Some are really you need to be very quick and very short. Some you could be like Twitter, you only can have like 150 words, right? And so very small. And the Facebook it could be a little longer. And so our team is very thoughtful on using different social media to engage the public. Actually, they would be a better person than me to talk about that because they are the experts, and then my job is to really supporting them. But my job is also to say social media is very, very essential now, right? And so even though I'm not an expert, I can understand the vision, the importance of it. So I want to support and the gear museum more towards engaging people not only in the conventional means, but also in the most cutting edge or up-to-date social media platforms. So I think that is what we want to. We want to create diversity. We want to create variety so that different people who are used to different social media will get access and we can reach them.
Since
And on the WeChat, yeah, you notice that I have some of the Chinese and the
yeah,
Gary tour or masterpiece highlight.
yeah,
Partly because I'm ethnically Chinese, so I can speak Chinese, and and
uh,
and and also we all know that in China there's a huge population, and the WeChat is a very popular, uh, primary popular for communication tools. So enable us to tell the story of Asian Art Museum, not only engage in the public, Chinese speaking public with Chinese art, but also actually the art of all Asia. I think we will, be able to provide the viewers either in China or Chinese speaking viewers elsewhere exposure to art that other than Chinese art. So I think that is very important as well.
yeah. Speaking of audiences, this is just something that I just was curious and wasn't on my original list of questions. Was did you feel like there was a change in the audience or the audience when you went from before the museum closed, which was completely in person, and then uh, when the museum was open compared to after the museum closed, like the audiences that are the visitors of your website or followers of your social media accounts? Do you feel that there's a difference between the people following you guys and compared to the people who regularly visit the museums?
Yeah, I think so. I think our museum always have very loyal audiences, and but when the quarantine began, we were delighted to see our digital engagement had skyrocketed. Our online audience shot up 59% across all channels,
Wow.
and an astounding 744% on Instagram. 744 percent. So that's a tremendous growth for us.
So, so
The museum convention is not understood as among the most advanced in technology, but we really see the benefit of our online engagement by 59% across all channels and 744 on Instagram. And we physically closed the museum in March. Then, as COVID began to subside a little bit, quite a bit in October, with the government's permission, we opened the museum for 2 months in October and November, and then we had to close again in early December because the situation was getting worse then. But during those 2 months, we also realized actually we had a lot of first-time visitors and the young visitors. The most loyal visitors to the museum is always the museum members, right? So you are not surprised to see them because everyone wants to come back to the museum to enjoy the real work of art, the museum they love. But to see many first time and particularly younger visitors check out the museum. Very rewarding. And I think it's had a lot to do with our engagement on this on the online platforms. So we seem to be able to reach a broader, younger audience, more online savvy audiences, and engage them in such a way that they want to come to check out the museum when it is physically open. So I see, the digital and physical experience are really mutually complementary and mutually reinforcing. I think it's not one or the other. I think in the post-COVID days, and you always will be side by side. I think that is very important. That a sort of a creative symbiosis and between physical experience and digital experience.
So you mentioned you said it was Instagram that increased the number of, you guys increased the number of followers on Instagram by more than 700%?
744% to be precise. And if you need those data, I could have our marketing team to provide you with more data if you like.
Okay, yeah, that would be fantastic, and that's really shocking. That's very impressive.
Yeah, but you also enumerated many other online platforms, like Twitter, Facebook.
Right.
So across all the channels, if you congregate them all together, the increase was 59%. But Instagram is just skyrocketed for some reason.
So since March of 2020, or when like compared to
Yeah, during COVID compared to before COVID.
Okay. Wow, that's really impressive. Okay. Yeah, so if we could go back to the museum website for a moment. Something else that I was just naturally curious about is how long did it take for you guys to fully transition from in-person museum? During in-person museum, usually you wouldn't have as strong of a focus on the e-resources offered currently on your website. So how long did it take you guys to fully transition from in person to now fully online and transitioning all the e-resources to the website? Because I know there's you guys have more than 10,000 artworks, and being able to digitalize all of them is going to be quite it's going to take quite a lot of time and effort. So I'm wondering whether you guys converted a portion of them or all of them, and what's the timeline for that?
Yeah, actually, it's not a turnkey event. It's like, now we close the museum, we become digital museum. Actually, digital engagement with the audience has been going on for a long time. Of course, one primary platform is our website, right? And we've been having a good website and a robust one for many, many years. Actually, one part of the website that visitors may not be aware of is called e-museum. Actually, our collection is nearly 20,000, and most of them are digitized. Actually, most of them are available online. But it's sort of a little bit passive and dormant unless you're looking for certain things. It's not automatically sort of pushed to you. And so that's so can tell us in the old days, our technology or our visual, effort it is not quite to the degree we wanted to. But in the last several years, we also invested a lot on the on-site digital experience, right? And why we need the on-site digital experience? Because if you look at a real work of art, and the only information you can get is a label, let's say 100 words, or a tour guide, which need to be very short, the limited information is kind of constraining in the sense that you may not get a lot out of it. So again, we wanted to put ourselves into the shoes of the visitors and understanding visitors have different needs. So through the on-site digital engagement, for example, we selected a number of great masterpieces. For each one, we developed different layers of several layers of digital content. So if you're a visitor, you want to learn more, it is right there at your disposal. You can use it, hear it, and see it. Often the case comes with the image and video and also narrations. And or if you say, hey, I only want to look at art, don't want to read anything, then the art is right in front of you, right? So we have invested a lot on the online, no, digital engagement on site with our visitors before the COVID hit. The important is that we provide different opportunities at different need to meet different needs, because we understand every visitor is unique. Everyone has a different interest and perspective. And we try to broaden our possibility of engagement by creating diverse content digitally. I mean, actually, sometimes people will want to make an artificial distinction, digital or a virtual experience, and the physical looking at art is always different, and the one cannot replace other. I both agree to that idea, but also I want to add more onto it. I think again, it's not a zero-sum game. It is really mutually reinforcing. Think of one thing. We don't, even if we're in the real work, in the real setting, many of us don't actually look at art without the aid. I'm very nearsighted.
Right.
Eyeglass is a tool, enhance our vision. So it come along that way. For example, a lot of great art have details. Your naked eyes, even your 20/20 vision, you cannot see it. Size is small, details small, and to protect the art, you also need to stand at a certain distance. If you online digital means that it can tell you all the intricacy details, you will not be able to see with your naked eyes, because the digital camera that is such a high resolution enable you to see the details, right? So digital is right there to help your physical experience. So that's why we have invested a lot in that. So for us to transition from a physical museum to a virtual museum, of course, we put a great deal of effort, because not everything is ready. But on the other hand, it's not like a turnkey event. Like suddenly we have to transition. It's it's a sort of a heightened, sped up journey. The journey has just a lot more urgency and time sensitiveness. And I think we're still on that journey. And this journey will continue even after we'll be able to completely reopen our physical museum. We'll continue to enhance our digital engagement, our visitors on site and online. For the people who come to see the museum in person, the digital tools will help them to appreciate even deeper their physical encounter with the work of art. And for people who enjoy us online, we provide all different kinds of experience. And then hopefully someday they will be so interested they want to come to take a personal appearance in the museum as a visitor.
Yeah, that's very well said. How important do you think it is, since a lot of people argue that a museum, just like a library, it's very important for one to be able to actually stand within the museum space and then physically look at the artwork with their own eyes. And then, even though you mentioned there's a lot of aids that are provided even in the actual museum, and sometimes resources offered online can help you even when you're in the museum itself. But how important do you think, or whether or not you think it's replaceable, the physical museum experience, kind of like a library? A lot of people are saying that it's not necessary to have a library anymore, while others are arguing that, even though you'll be able to find all of the selection of books online, that physical space for you to actually be there and sit down to read a physical book is extremely important.
I think that's an excellent question. And the key, I think, in this on this topic is the word experience, right? We live our life and by accumulating and gathering a lot of experiences. So it's starting with the library. Yes, you can nowadays buy books or online, but do not replace the kind of physical joy or physical intimacy and the leisure that you are in a physical bookstore, right? Same thing, you can read most of books digitally now, but that does not replaces the, the sense of touch. Even sometimes book smells, right? And the aged book has certain smell, and they sometimes are very endearing. And be able to hold a book, turn the page, as an experience is extremely important. But that does not say that online bookstore, online reading is no good. They are good, they are convenient, they serve great purpose, but that does not replace the physically holding a book or physically being a library. The same thing, the museum. Online can engage you a lot, you can learn a lot, but the works of art often the case is three-dimensional. Often the case you need to go around it to experience it. Never replace a physical encounter. And you never know when you will be inspired by just, turn your head and look at something you did not expect to see, and then may get you all excited or awakened. And sometimes, the art has not only the tactility, they're very tactile objects, but also the juxtapositions of art, the physical journey of walking from one room to the other, and sometimes even encounter people along the way as your fellow visitors or even friends. These are kind of experiences are never going to be replaced. Because humans are fundamentally social creatures, social animals, and we need to have an in-person encounter. Now, digital has enhanced our ability to have encounter in other means, virtual means, but that is going to be never replace the physical one. Even though I'm not a scientist, I'm not an AI specialist. I know that in future, people may create avatars, but I know as a real because in the end, humans is unique and a unique creature life, right? So I think that's why the visiting the museum, see the real work of art is absolutely essential. All the digital means is to help you want to understand, appreciate more of the art, and have an even stronger desire to be wanting the physical museum to gain that unique experience that you will never get it outside the museum.
So you think that the digital resources are completely different in terms of the purposes that it has an audience compared to actually visiting a museum, and that neither of them are actually can be replaced by the other.
Yeah, I agree, and I think either of them are important, but we need to be very sort of clear-headed. What kind of experience we will get in either way? And earlier I said digital is also a real space, even though we call virtual, but also a real space in the sense that people creating digital art, right? And the digital art does not necessarily may or may not have a physical manifestation. It could be just shown on the screen on your iPhone, or all could have a physical manifestation of it. So digital is a real space. So that digital art creating that space. At the same time, it's also a virtual space. And at the same time, physical space is very physical, but also it could have a virtual component of it.
Mhm. And moving forward, this is my final question. Moving forward, once the museum opens, hopefully in 2021, once the physical museum opens, is your plan for the museum to continue to uh, have contents, have digital contents available and constantly creating new digital contents on your website and social media accounts? Or do you maybe plan to slow the pace of digital creation down a little bit and focus more on the physical space?
Yeah, I think that, again, it is not a zero-sum games. Like you focus more on the physical, then you have to lower your focus on the digital. Of course, the resources are finite, but I think we have learned through this COVID experience that we could excel in both. So I think very much in the post-COVID days, physical and digital will go hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. So we'll be even richer, even more dynamic, even more engaging museum for our public. And I also, let me take this opportunity to say something about a particular unique value that the Asia Museum provides, because our focus is Asian art and culture, and also including Asian American art and culture. So we serve a unique way to engage people and to understand, appreciate Asian arts and culture and history. In doing so, also help fight against xenophobia and anti-Asian racism. There was so much, and hate and the racism towards the Asian during this pandemic, and because of the COVID, and I think our museum, through our artistic and culture engagement, we really want to make sure that Asian art is for all. And the Asian art culture is essential and a vibrant part of a mainstream American life. And everyone can benefit from learning it. So I think this is something very important for us. Through storytelling, artistic engagement, that will also help to help our society become a better one in terms of more equal, more respectful, and less hatred and racism and xenophobia.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I appreciate really what you guys are doing to help everyone appreciate art and connect different people, no matter what their race is or where they're coming from. I think that's one of the most important things about art, is not the art itself, but how it helps to connect communities of different people. And especially for you guys, it's you guys are the Asian museum, Asian art museum. It's there are a lot of general museum that contains art from all different cultures, and for you guys it's very specific. I mean, if you think of, well, it could be general if you're considering it as you have collections from all over Asia, from all different countries, but in another sense it's also very specific, because there are a lot of other museums having artworks from many different countries and many different continents, different ethnicities. So
yeah, I'd agree. Actually, I do think our museum is a global museum, but we look at the world through Asia lens, through the
yeah,
lens of Asia. And our focus is connection, because Asia is not in isolation, connection with the rest of the world is everywhere. So our focus is not only to celebrate great art and the culture of Asia, great art made in this country by Asian American artists, but also to demonstrate Asia's global connections and the relevance, right? And so much, in today, whether it's a cuisine or music, Asia is very vibrant in American life. And in the classical time as well, in the ancient times as well, the trade, the Silk Road, it leads everywhere. And so I think, but not necessarily everybody is familiar understanding the story. So this is part of our mission as well, to engage people with such stories.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's all the questions I had to ask, and I really appreciate you coming on. Again, I know you're very busy, and thank you. And I certainly learned a lot. I hope our audiences learned a lot as well. And this is COVID has certainly had a really big impact on all of us. We used to do our shows in the studio, and there used to be a lot of different people, doing camera work, and then people doing the set. And there's also an editing room behind, doing everything behind the scenes, and then eventually broadcasting it. But now we're just doing this Zoom and just
Yeah, we're all
yeah.
we'll have to be nimble. You are right. I'm very, very busy, but I'm delighted to have this conversation with you. You are among the youngest journalists who ever interviewed me, and I'm particularly, enjoy that.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
yep. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you.